Let's dive into something a little different today. Have you heard of Spirit of the Oak? Druidic mysticism for inner strength.
I have. It's by Conrad Riker.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it's not your typical self-help book.
No, not at all. It's more about how men today can kind of rediscover their strength and purpose by drawing on ancient Druidic wisdom. It's kind of a fascinating concept.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I'll be honest, I was skeptical. Druids. Like, what could they possibly have to teach us in the 21st century?
Right. Sounds a little out there. But Riker actually makes a pretty compelling case. He starts by talking about this crisis of masculinity that a lot of men are feeling today. That sense of being lost or lacking direction.
Yeah, it's like all those traditional roles and rituals that used to guide men. From boyhood to manhood, they've kind of disappeared in modern society.
And he uses the example of ancient cultures, like where boys would go through these intense initiations to prove their strength and courage and earn their place as men, like becoming a warrior or surviving in the wilderness.
It's like they had this clear path, a set of challenges to overcome.
Yeah. And Riker argues that without those challenges, it's no wonder a lot of men feel adrift today.
Okay, so that's where the Druids come in.
Exactly. Riker believes we can learn a lot from the ancient Druids about how to reclaim that sense of masculinity and purpose. But he makes it clear that Druids weren't just these peaceful nature lovers like some people imagine.
Right. I was picturing, like, guys in robes, hugging trees.
Yeah, it's not quite like that. The Druids were also warriors, philosophers, leaders. They had this really well-rounded understanding of the world, and they valued strength and courage as well as wisdom and compassion.
So it's not just about, like, going camping and feeling better.
Well, he does talk a lot about the importance of connecting with nature, but it's more about tapping into that strength and resilience that comes from being in touch with the natural world. The Druids believed that nature was a source of power and wisdom, and that by spending time in nature, you could actually enhance your mental and physical abilities.
Interesting. So he's not just saying go hug a tree, he's connecting it to this deeper sense of purpose. And even like cognitive abilities.
Exactly. He gives this example of how the Druids mastered astronomy, mathematics, and law, all these really complex systems that required serious brain power. And he argues that their connection to nature actually played a role in that.
Wow, that's fascinating. So how does this translate to modern men? Like, is he suggesting we all need to become wilderness survivalists?
Not necessarily. He suggests things like forest bathing. Have you heard of that?
I've heard the term, but I'm not sure I know what it is.
It's basically just spending mindful time in nature, soaking in the sights, sounds, smells, really being present in the moment. He also suggests things like gardening or even just taking walks in the woods to kind of reconnect with our primal instincts.
Okay, so like getting back to basics.
In a way, yeah. It's about remembering where we come from and tapping into those ancient instincts that are still within us. He even talks about how spending time in nature can reduce stress and improve focus.
Right. He cites some studies that show how being in nature lowers cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone. So there's a real physiological benefit. Okay, I'm starting to see how this Druidic thing could actually be relevant to our lives today. So besides nature, what else does Riker say we can learn from these ancient guys?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. He talks about cultivating a rational mind.
A rational mind. What does that even mean?
He's basically saying that men should prioritize logic and critical thinking over just reacting emotionally. The Druids were known for their ability to analyze situations, weigh the evidence, and make decisions based on reason, not just gut feelings.
Okay, I could see how that would be valuable in today's world. We're constantly bombarded with information, and everyone's got an opinion.
Exactly. Riker argues that by developing this rational mind, we can become more discerning, more resilient, and ultimately better equipped to handle the challenges life throws our way. He even draws a comparison between the Druids' ability to memorize vast amounts of legal code and what he calls a masculine superpower, highlighting their mental discipline and focus.
So we need to reconnect with nature and develop our rational minds. Anything else? This is starting to sound like a lot of work.
Well, it is a journey, a process of growth, but speaking of growth, this is where the idea of ritual comes in.
Ritual? You mean like ceremonies and stuff?
Yeah, like that. But also just the idea of incorporating rituals into our daily lives. Riker believes that rituals played a crucial role in ancient cultures. in helping men mark the transition from boyhood to manhood.
You mean like those initiations we were talking about earlier?
Exactly. Those rituals, even if they were physically or mentally demanding, provided structure, a sense of purpose. And he argues that while we may not have such formalized rituals in modern society, we can create our own.
So like what kind of rituals are we talking about?
He gives examples ranging from marking significant life events, like getting married or starting a family, to creating daily practices that cultivate discipline and purpose. He even suggests things as simple as a regular morning routine. That includes meditation or exercise as a form of personal ritual.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be some elaborate ceremony. It can be about finding those small, consistent practices that help us stay grounded and focused.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you, what helps you tap into that sense of inner strength and direction that Riker's talking about.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So we've got connecting with nature, cultivating a rational mind, and incorporating rituals. What else is in this Druidic toolbox for modern men?
Well, Riker doesn't stop there. He also delves into the importance of diet and nutrition.
Uh-oh, here we go. Another diet book telling us to eat more kale.
Actually, it's not like that at all. He's not about fads or restrictive diets. He advocates for what he calls a Celtic warrior diet, which is more about focusing on whole, unprocessed foods and avoiding the kind of stuff that's common in a lot of modern processed foods.
So more like a back-to-basics approach, eating like our ancestors.
Exactly. He even provides a sample meal plan in the book and discusses the benefits of fasting, which, by the way, was a practice used by ancient Celtic warriors to enhance their physical and mental strength.
Fasting. You mean like not eating for a certain period of time?
Right. He argues that it's not about starving yourself, but about giving your body a chance to reset and become more efficient.
I've heard about the benefits of fasting, but I never connected it to like ancient warrior traditions. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've covered nature, rationality, rituals, and diet. What else is there?
Well, this is where things get a little controversial, but I think it's important to discuss. Riker tackles the topics of competition and conflict.
Oh, those are some loaded words these days.
I know, right? But Riker argues that men are hardwired for both, and that trying to suppress those natural instincts can actually be harmful.
So he's not saying we should all become like aggressive jerks.
No, not at all. He's advocating for a healthy approach. He says that competition, when channeled effectively, can drive men to achieve their goals and push their limits. And he talks about managing conflict constructively, using it as an opportunity for growth and learning.
So it's about finding that balance, knowing when to push ourselves and when to step back and find a resolution.
Exactly. He even uses the Battle of Alesia, where the Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix faced off against Julius Caesar, to illustrate how the Celts were not just fierce warriors, but also brilliant strategists. He argues that even in defeat, there are valuable lessons to be learned.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. It's not just about individual practices, it's about developing a whole mindset.
Right. And this leads to another key point Riker makes, the importance of brotherhood.
Ah, the power of male bonding. Is he talking about like sports and beer?
Well, those can be part of it, but he's talking about something deeper. He stresses the importance of building strong, supportive relationships with other men, creating what he calls a band of brothers.
Like a support system, a group of guys who have your back.
Exactly. He argues that this kind of brotherhood is essential for men to thrive, especially in today's world, where it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected.
He even shares stories about his own Oak Brotherhood, a group of men in his local Druidic circle who support and challenge each other. It's almost like a modern-day version of those ancient warrior societies.
Right, and that ties back to his point about the crisis of masculinity. If men are feeling lost and isolated, building those strong bonds with other men can provide that guidance and support they need.
It's interesting how he connects these ancient traditions to modern-day challenges.
That's what's so compelling about Riker's approach. He's not just romanticizing the past, he's showing how these ancient principles can be applied to our lives today.
This has been a lot to absorb, that's for sure. We've covered nature, rationality, rituals, diet, competition, conflict, brotherhood. It's a lot.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface, but all of this leads to Riker's ultimate point, which is about building a legacy.
Legacy. I thought that was something you worried about, like when you were older.
That's what I thought too. But Riker argues that it's something we should be thinking about throughout our lives, and it's not about fame or fortune either.
So what is it about?
He defines legacy as the impact we have on the world, the values we embody, and the stories we leave behind. He encourages men to think about what they want to be remembered for, what they want to contribute to the world.
That's pretty deep.
It is. And it ties back to all those other elements we've discussed. Connecting with nature, cultivating a rational mind, building strong brotherhoods, all of that feeds into creating a life that matters.
I'm starting to see how it all fits together. It's not just a bunch of random ideas. It's a whole philosophy of life.
Exactly. And to help men navigate all of this, Riker introduces a concept he calls the Druidic compass.
A compass? Like
Yeah.
the kind that points north? What does that have to do with anything?
It's a metaphor. He describes it as a tool for finding direction and purpose in life, for making decisions that are aligned with our values and goals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does this Druidic compass work?
Well, that's a conversation for our next segment, but I can tell you this. It involves integrating elements of nature, intuition, history, and action into a framework for making choices and staying on course.
Wow, this is getting really fascinating. I can't wait to hear more about this Druidic compass.
Me too. It's a really powerful concept.
Yeah.
That, I think, can help men find clarity and direction in a world that often feels chaotic and confusing. So are you ready to unpack this Druidic compass and see how it all works?
Absolutely. Give me the rundown.
Okay, well, Riker describes it as having 4 main points, kind of like the directions on a traditional compass, north, south, east, west. But in this case, the points are nature, intuition, history, and action. He argues that by aligning ourselves with these 4 points, we can find balance, clarity, and direction in our lives.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not like a literal compass that you'd use to hike through the woods.
Right, it's more like a framework for decision making.
Got it. A framework. Okay, so we already talked about nature, getting out there, connecting with our primal instincts, all that. What about intuition? Isn't that kind of a fuzzy concept?
Yeah, it can be. But Riker argues that intuition is actually a powerful tool that we often overlook. He describes it as that inner voice that sometimes whispers to us, that gut feeling that tells us what's right or wrong.
You mean like when you just have a bad feeling about something, even if you can't explain why?
Exactly. Riker says that intuition isn't just some mystical woo-woo stuff. It's actually our subconscious mind processing information and sending us signals. He suggests we can develop our intuition through practices like meditation and mindfulness.
Interesting. So we can train ourselves to become more intuitive.
Right. It's about paying attention to those subtle cues, those gut feelings, and learning to trust them. Riker argues that intuition can be especially helpful when we're faced with tough decisions.
Okay, so we've got nature and intuition. What's next on this Druidic compass? History, right?
Yep, history. Riker's a big believer in understanding the past, not just in like a dry academic way, but in a way that connects us to our ancestors and their wisdom. He says that we're not just products of our environment, but also products of our history. Our ancestors have left us a legacy of strength, resilience, and valuable lessons that we can learn from.
I guess that makes sense. We've all heard the saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. But what kind of history is he talking about?
Yeah.
Is it about like memorizing dates and battles?
Right. No, it's much deeper than that. He's talking about understanding the stories, the traditions, the values that have been passed down through generations. He encourages us to learn about our family history, our cultural heritage, and the struggles and triumphs of those who came before us.
So it's about finding those connections, those threads that link us to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Riker argues that by understanding our history, we can gain a deeper understanding of who we are and where we fit in, to the grand scheme of things.
Okay, I'm getting it. So I've got nature, intuition, history. Now, what's the last point on this compass?
Action. This is where the rubber meets the road. Riker is all about taking action, about putting what we've learned into practice.
So it's not enough to just sit around and think about all this stuff. We actually have to do something about it.
Right. He says that knowledge is useless without action. He challenges us to set goals, make plans, and then take concrete steps to achieve those goals. It's about moving forward, making things happen, and creating the life we want.
He even talks about using the Druidic compass as a guide for making decisions, right? Like if you're facing a tough choice, you can ask yourself, what would the Druids do?
Exactly. Well, maybe not literally ask that question, but the idea is to use these 4 principles as a framework for decision making.
So if you're feeling lost or unsure, you can consult the compass and ask, does this decision align with my values? Does it help me connect with nature, trust my intuition, honor my history, and take action?
You got it. It's a simple yet powerful way to approach decision making. And it's not just about big, life-altering choices either.
You mean we can use this for everyday stuff too?
Absolutely. Riker says we can apply the Druidic compass to everything. From choosing a career path to deciding what to eat for dinner, it's about being mindful, intentional, and making choices that are aligned with our values and goals.
Wow. This is pretty profound stuff. So far, this book seems like a real game changer.
It is, and we're not even done yet. There's so much more to explore in Riker's work. He talks about the importance of physical strength, not just in like a superficial get ripped kind of way, but in a way that connects to mental toughness, discipline, and even spiritual growth.
Oh, yeah. He had a whole section on that, right? Something about how modern men have become dangerously sedentary.
He did. He compares the average office worker to a man slowly dying, which might sound a bit dramatic, but it highlights how disconnected we've become from our bodies. He argues that physical strength is not just about aesthetics. It's about having the energy and vitality to pursue our goals and overcome challenges.
Right. He talks about how physical strength can actually fuel mental toughness and resilience.
Yeah.
It's like that old saying, healthy body, healthy mind.
Exactly. And he's not just talking about hitting the gym and pumping iron. He advocates for a holistic approach, incorporating more movement into our daily lives, practicing mindfulness, and even aligning our workout routines with the natural rhythms of the year, just like the Druids did.
Aligning our workouts with the seasons. What does that even mean?
Well, he talks about how ancient cultures would adjust their activities based on the time of year. In the spring and summer, when energy is high and days are long, they'd focus on more strenuous activities. In the fall and winter, they'd shift to more restorative practices.
So it's about working with nature, not against it. Kind of like how he talks about connecting with nature for mental clarity. It's all tied together.
Exactly. It's about seeing ourselves as part of the natural world, not separate from it. And that brings us back to history. Riker challenges us to go beyond the textbooks and really dig deep into our ancestral roots, not just in a factual sense, but in a spiritual and psychological sense.
He talks about finding those stories, those archetypes that resonate with us on a deeper level, right? Like the revival of Norse mythology in Scandinavia,
Yeah.
which he sees as a reawakening of masculine identity.
Right. It's about finding those connections to the past that can help us understand ourselves better in the present. He also emphasizes the importance of oral tradition, how the Druids would preserve history through memory and storytelling. It's a stark contrast to our modern world where information is often fleeting and easily forgotten.
Yeah, he's a big advocate for becoming what he calls modern bards, sharing our stories and passing down wisdom to future generations. It's about creating a living history, a legacy that can inspire and guide those who come after us.
Exactly. And that ties into another important theme in the book, the importance of having a strong moral compass. Riker sees moral relativism as a major problem in modern society, arguing that without a clear set of principles to guide us, we become lost and adrift.
Yeah, he really goes after that, doesn't he? He contrasts it with the Druids and the Fianna, those ancient Celtic warriors who lived by a strict code of honor. It's not about being rigid or dogmatic, he says, but about having a set of values that you're willing to stand by, even when it's tough.
He even suggests creating our own personal code of ethics, a set of rules to guide our actions and help us make decisions that are aligned with our values. He uses this great example of a CEO who walked away from a lucrative deal because it went against his principles. It's a powerful reminder that integrity isn't just a word, it's a way of life.
It's about being true to yourself,
Yeah.
even when it's hard. And that takes courage, which is another theme Riker explores in depth.
Right. He uses the example of Ernest Shackleton, the polar explorer, to illustrate what real courage looks like. It's not about being fearless, it's about choosing to act even when you're terrified.
He talks about how Shackleton's unwavering determination inspired his crew to survive against all odds, even after their ship was crushed in the Antarctic ice. It's an incredible story.
It is. And Riker challenges us to find our own Shackleton moments, those times when we need to step up and lead, even when it's scary. He even delves into the psychology of fear, suggesting that it can be a powerful motivator, but also a crippling force if we let it control us.
He's big on confronting our fears, pushing past our comfort zones, and embracing the challenges that life throws our way. He says that courage is a muscle that needs to be exercised, that the more we face our fears, the stronger we become.
Exactly. And that strength, that resilience, is essential for navigating the complexities of the modern world.
All right, so we've talked about nature, intuition, history, action, physical strength, a strong moral compass, and courage. What else is there? This book is packed.
Well, he then dives into a topic that's crucial for men in the 21st century: leadership.
Ah, leadership. Is he talking about, like, climbing the corporate ladder
Mm.
and becoming a CEO?
Well, that can be part of it, but it's much bigger than that. He uses the example of Vercingetorix, the Gallic chieftain, to illustrate what true leadership is all about. It's not about dominance or control. It's about service, inspiration, and adaptability.
So it's more about leading by example, inspiring others, and being willing to adapt to changing circumstances.
Exactly. He emphasizes the importance of clear communication, strategic thinking, and the ability to build strong relationships. He even suggests that practices like mindfulness and meditation can help leaders manage stress, improve focus, and make better decisions.
He challenges men to step up and lead, not just in their careers, but in their communities and their personal lives. It's about taking responsibility, inspiring others, and making a positive impact on the world.
And that brings us to one of Riker's most intriguing concepts, the idea of the other world.
The other world. Sounds a bit mystical. What's that all about?
He draws on Celtic mythology and the Druids' understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. He suggests that there's more to life than what we can see and touch, that there's a spiritual dimension we can tap into.
Interesting. So it's not about, like, a specific religion or belief system.
Not necessarily. He's talking about a deeper sense of meaning, a connection to something bigger than ourselves. He encourages us to explore this other world through practices like meditation, nature immersion, and creative expression.
So it's about finding that sense of purpose that transcends the material world.
Yeah. He even uses the example of Steve Jobs, the tech visionary, who famously drew inspiration from both technology and spirituality. It's about finding that balance, that harmony between the material and the spiritual.
And Riker argues that this balance is essential for men in the 21st century, who are often bombarded with messages that focus solely on material success. It's about reclaiming our spiritual side, our connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And that leads into his discussion of balance in general. He uses the Celtic myth of the Oak King and Holly King to illustrate the importance of embracing both sides of life cycles.
The Oak King and the Holly King. Who are they?
They represent the opposing forces of growth and decay, light and dark, summer and winter. The Oak King represents growth, vitality, and action, while the Holly King represents rest, reflection, and decay.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. It's about finding that balance between action and rest, growth and reflection.
Exactly. He argues that just as nature embraces both growth and decay, men should learn to find balance between these opposing forces. We need both times of action and times of rest, times of growth and times of reflection.
He even ties this to the modern world, saying that the constant pressure to achieve and produce can lead to burnout and exhaustion. He encourages us to find our own rhythm, our own balance between pushing forward and stepping back. It's about recognizing that true strength comes from embracing the full cycle of life, not just the parts that feel good or easy.
And speaking of embracing the full cycle of life, that brings us back to the importance of ritual in a man's life.
Oh yeah, we touched on that earlier, but I'm ready to dive deeper. What does he say about rituals specifically?
Riker argues that rituals, both ancient and modern, can be powerful tools for transformation and growth. They help us mark transitions, create structure, and connect with something bigger than ourselves. He even suggests that we can create our own rituals, tailored to our individual needs and values.
So it's not about, like, following some rigid set of rules,
Yeah.
but about finding those practices that resonate with us personally.
Exactly. He talks about how rituals can help us ground ourselves, connect with our purpose, and move forward with intention. He gives the example of a morning ritual that might include exercise, meditation, and journaling.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about setting the tone for the day,
Yeah.
creating a sense of purpose and focus.
Exactly. And he suggests creating rituals for bigger life transitions, like getting married, starting a family, or launching a new business. It's about marking those milestones with intention and ceremony.
That's a really beautiful way to think about it.
It is. And this brings us to Riker's discussion of the modern crisis of masculinity. He argues that men today are facing a unique set of challenges, from the decline of traditional male roles to the constant barrage of messages that undermine their confidence and self-worth.
Yeah. We touched on that earlier, the whole idea that society has kind of muddled the definition of what it means to be a man.
He talks about the rise of the man-child, the adult male who avoids responsibility and clings to the comforts of adolescence. He blames this on a number of factors, including fatherlessness, the feminization of culture, and the over-reliance on technology.
It's a pretty bleak picture, isn't it?
It can be. But Riker doesn't just complain about the problem, he offers a solution. He talks about the importance of reconnecting with nature, building strong brotherhoods, and finding a deeper sense of purpose. He challenges men to step up, take responsibility for their lives, and become the leaders their families and communities need.
That's a powerful message. It's about recognizing that we're not broken, but that we need to find a new way forward, a way that honors our masculinity, while embracing the complexities of the modern world.
Exactly. And Riker's book offers a roadmap for that journey. It's a call to action, a challenge to become the men we were meant to be.
So what's next on this journey of exploring Spirit of the Oak? What other nuggets of wisdom has Riker got for us?
Well, get ready, because this next section gets pretty intense. Riker dives headfirst into a topic that's often seen as taboo: the role of competition and conflict in a man's life.
Oh boy, this should be interesting. Isn't all competition bad? Like, aren't we supposed to be all about cooperation and kindness these days?
Well, Riker argues that it's not that simple. He says that competition, when channeled effectively, can actually be a powerful motivator for growth and achievement.
Okay, so competition isn't always a bad thing.
Right. It's about how we use it. Like, think about sports. Competition pushes athletes to train harder, to improve their skills.
Right, to push their limits.
Yeah, and Riker says it's the same in life. Healthy competition can motivate us to become better versions of ourselves.
But too much competition can be toxic, right?
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Riker talks about how excessive competition can lead to burnout and resentment. It can actually damage relationships and hold us back in the long run.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about competing with ourselves, in a way.
In a way, yeah. It's about striving for excellence while also respecting our competitors and recognizing that everyone's on their own journey.
So competition is one side of the coin. What about conflict? That's another word that gets a bad rap these days.
Yeah, for sure. But Riker argues that conflict is inevitable. In any relationship, really, whether it's with our spouses, our colleagues, or even just strangers we encounter. The key is not to avoid conflict, but to manage it constructively.
So how do we do that? How do we make conflict a positive thing instead of something that just creates drama and stress?
He talks about the importance of clear communication, really listening to the other person's perspective,
Yeah.
and being willing to compromise.
So it's about understanding where the other person's coming from and finding a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly. And he even suggests that conflict, when handled well, can actually strengthen relationships. It can help us clarify our boundaries, deepen our understanding of each other, and ultimately come out stronger on the other side.
I never thought of conflict as an opportunity for growth before. That's a really interesting perspective.
It is, isn't it? And it ties back to the idea of brotherhood.
Right, because we're not meant to go through these challenges alone.
Exactly. Riker emphasizes how important it is for men to have strong, supportive relationships with other men. Men who can challenge them, support them, and hold them accountable. He calls it creating a band of brothers.
Kind of like a modern day version of those ancient warrior societies, where men fought side by side and relied on each other for survival.
Exactly. He says that brotherhood is essential for men to thrive, especially in today's world where it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected.
Okay, so we've got competition, conflict, brotherhood, anything else?
Well, Riker also talks about the importance of building a legacy.
Legacy. I thought that was something you thought about later in life.
Me too. But Riker argues that it's something we should be thinking about throughout our lives, and it's not about fame or fortune or anything like that.
So what is it about?
He defines legacy as the impact we have on the world, the values we embody, the stories we leave behind. He encourages men to think about what they want to be remembered for, what they want to contribute to the world.
That's pretty deep.
It is, and it ties back to all those other things we've talked about. Connecting with nature, cultivating a rational mind, building strong brotherhoods, it all feeds into creating a life that matters, a life that has a positive impact on the world.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. It's like he's giving us this roadmap for building a life of purpose and meaning.
Exactly. And to help men navigate this journey, he introduces this concept he calls the Druidic compass.
The Druidic compass. Didn't we already talk about that?
We talked about the 4 points of the compass: nature, intuition, history, and action. But we didn't really get into how they all work together to create this, metaphorical tool for navigating life's challenges.
Okay, yeah. So there's more to it than just those 4 points.
Much more. Riker describes the Druidic compass as a way to bring those 4 elements together. To use nature as our grounding force, intuition as our guide, history as our roadmap, and action as our fuel.
Wow. It's like a blueprint for living a more meaningful life.
It is. And I think it's something that can really resonate with men today who are searching for that sense of purpose and direction.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I'm really glad we tackled this book.
Me too. Spirit of the Oak is a powerful book. It's thought-provoking and inspiring. It challenges us to look at the world in a new way and to step into our full potential as men.
For our listeners who are interested in learning more, you can find Spear of the Oak, Druidic Mysticism for Inner Strength, on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. It's definitely worth checking out. And that's a wrap on our deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge and keep diving deep.